Welcome into another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. We're your hosts, Logan and Luke Lazarchik. Today, pretty jam-packed episode. We'll be talking about divisional round, conference championships, and also a couple of coaching hires from the last couple of days. We were unable to record before the divisional round, so we wanted to make sure that we recap those games and preview the championship games this weekend. We'll be at the Chiefs game this weekend. Hopefully, the Chiefs can pull out another W. Luke, I know you're pretty excited about that one, and I do expect it to be a really good game between the Chiefs and the Bills.
I mean, it's finally now we haven't been able to see Josh Allen yet. We've seen Mahomes go against Lamar, i.e. the regular season. Seen him go against Burrow. Seen him go against Stroud. I saw who else have we seen him go against? Just trying to think of the best quarterbacks. I mean, I'm trying to think currently, but like we've seen Philip Rivers. We never saw Brady or Manning against Mahomes. Well, Manning retired before him, but this is I think this is the pinnacle of quarterback play that we're going to be able to see in this time. I don't think we're going to have seen a better matchup quarterback wise, especially in big as a moment.
Yeah, and we haven't physically seen them in person, but we have seen Mahomes and Josh Allen square off in the AFC title game. But Josh Allen is definitely not the player that he is now, and the Bills were they probably have more star power, but Josh Allen just was not as refined as he is at this point in his career. So it should be a much cleaner game, much better game. I believe that game was like 38-15 or something like that, or 38-24, but at one point it was 38-15. And that was the COVID year where the Chiefs ended up losing to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl after Eric Fisher tore his Achilles that game against the Bills. But we'll start off today's episode with a couple of coaching hire news. And we'll start with the biggest one, Ben Johnson to the Bears. For me, this is the best coach that the Bears could get on the market. It was obvious that you want a pair offensive guy with Caleb Williams. And Ben Johnson for 2-3 years now has been the best offensive guy on the market in terms of head coaches. I mean, I'm a big fan of the hire. It's not a guarantee that it will work, but I do think it has the highest probability of working out, especially with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I really I was kind of surprised. I was surprised. I just didn't think he'd go to the Bears because of, they're an organizational mess. But I guess he looked at Caleb, rightfully so, and said, I can do some stuff with this guy. And I mean, this is the best thing for Caleb. Even though I do Vrabel would have been my guy for them because I think what they truly, truly need is culture. But Ben Johnson, if he can take what Dan Campbell has taught him, then he's going to be good. And yeah, I feel like it's the most obvious hire. It's not really I don't think there's many people saying, oh, I don't want Ben Johnson. I mean, he will have to adjust to not having the talent that he had with Detroit, with having one of the best O-lines, 2 fantastic running backs, some great weapons, but he does have still some good weapons. Insanely talented quarterback. I am interested in what they do. I just don't see DeAndre Swift. That's a joke. One of our buddies called DeAndre Swift Dan Swift. I can't believe I just did
You fell
that.
for it.
Wow. I know, but DeAndre Swift. I feel like the running game, that's going to be what's interesting. I could see them devoting a lot of maybe money or a high draft pick or a trade or something to a running back who really fits Ben Johnson's. I'm saying Ashton Genty is a possibility, and I just see Ben Johnson wanting to get a running back, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs but I think it's the best case for the Bears at this point. I mean, if this doesn't work, if this doesn't fix the Bears, I don't know what's going to fix the Bears. And this has to work.
No, yeah, if it doesn't work, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily all on Caleb Williams, but it's definitely not if you told me it doesn't work out. I'm pretty worried about Caleb Williams' future outlook as a franchise starting quarterback. No, I think Caleb Williams will be fine. I do not agree with you necessarily that they would take a running back. I think Caleb Williams is the highest sacked quarterback this year. They will draft off.
But that's a lot of his fault.
But they also didn't invest any. I think their highest draft capital investment on offensive lineman was 4th, 5th round. the main reason Ben Johnson came for this job was because of Caleb Williams.
Well, wasn't
The
their first
organization's
round
dysfunctional.
pick of tackle?
What'd you say?
The Bears' first round pick was a tackle this year.
Or 2 years ago. 2 years ago it was, but no, this year was Roma Dunze was their first pick.
Oh yeah, 2
Other-
years.
other
2
than-
years.
2 years.
Yes.
So I misspoke on that. But you still need to address the offensive line. I would go get one of these premier tackles in the draft.
I don't think that necessarily means tackle. That just because you need an offensive lineman doesn't mean you draft one if they're not good. I'm seeing Genty as a Bear. I'm just seeing it.
I just don't. I agree with you from the standpoint that he's going to want to get a guy with Jahmyr Gibbs' talent, Jahmyr Gibbs' skill set, but I just don't. I don't think it's a running back like the draft class in this upcoming draft. There's a lot of running backs to be had, so I don't think they necessarily have to invest a first round pick. And I know Genty is the cream of the crop and clearly the RB1 in this draft. I just don't. For me, protecting Caleb Williams and making, like you said, the Lions, really good offensive line. Now, I know with different skill sets between Caleb Williams and Jared Goff, so maybe the offensive line's more of a need with Jared Goff. But I still think when you have a franchise quarterback that you're trying to develop, protection is the main way you're going to see him succeed. Because if he's not protected and he's constantly running around the pocket, now some of the sacks, like you said, were definitely on him. But if he's constantly under duress, you're not going to see him develop at all.
I mean, but they can go fix maybe they can go get a second round. I mean, if you look at the Lions, they would have taken Gibbs at 6. Do you not think Ben Johnson had some impact on, oh, I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. This is what I can do with him. I feel like he could see that.
But they already had other pieces in place.
Yes, but just because you need a tackle doesn't mean you take some tackle who ends up being bad, and maybe the tackle doesn't even play the first year or the guard because they need to develop. Ashton Genty is the most for sure way to help to make that first pick helpful toward Caleb Williams. There's not a single other player who's more guaranteed to help Caleb Williams. You don't know about tackles, and I feel like tackles are going to go early because it's not a fantastic receiver class. It's not a fantastic quarterback class. There's some nice defenders, but there's only I feel like there's 3 who are really good. I just think you could be looking at, do we take the 4th tackle, their number 1 running back? And I'd like Genty over some shot at tackle who you don't know is good. I really think it could be something.
Yeah, I think Will Campbell's going to be there. I think the guy from Texas may be there. Those are the 2 top tackles in the draft. And I think both of them could be, or one of them could be there at 9.
I don't think both will be there.
No, I said 1.
I would guess that they're both gone, though, as well. That's my thing. I think they're both gone. At that point, do you really want to take someone else? Because you see teams like, let's say Giants don't get a quarterback, they can take one. Saints could take one. Carolina could take one. Cleveland could take one. The Raiders could take one. New England could take one. Jacksonville could take one. I mean, I don't think they get a tackle, and I don't think they need it. I think Ben Johnson can get some solid alignment veterans. I mean, Dan Skip nothing, but then he became a Lion. I think that they can get some stuff, and then you get a stud like that. I think you're really seeing the value of running backs this year. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Gibbs, Bijan, Bucky Irving was a fantastic pick. And if you get someone like Genty in there, it takes so much stress off of Caleb, and I think Ben Johnson is the perfect guy for that.
Yeah, and remember when Jared Goff arrived in Detroit, he was more of just a throw-in piece in that Matthew Stafford trade. And really, his career was kind of hanging in the balance. And Ben Johnson was able to elevate him, get him back to where he is now. So Caleb Williams clearly more talented than Jared Goff. He needs to refine a little bit of his footwork, pocket presence, all that.
A lot of it.
Yeah, yes. But the ceiling with Caleb Williams is much higher than with Jared Goff. And with Jared Goff, they're averaging 29, 30 points a game. So I do think the Bears, if they can figure out offensively, and he's already going to hire Dennis Allen as his defensive coordinator. That's already been kind of a rumor out there, a report out there that that's the expectation. I think the Bears, and hiring from within division, the fact that he was hired so quickly to the Bears, I think all along that's the place he wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to assume that because everything was open but New England. So maybe it's some interest in New England, maybe not. But definitely of the rest, it was.
It really sounded like he was using because remember there was the Raiders there's a lot of steam that he's going to Raiders, and like Jacksonville is also underrated place. That sounds like he was using a little bit of leverage to get maybe a little bit more money from the Bears.
Yeah, and like Raiders, I could see Jacksonville was always like, well, you saw they fired Trent Baalke. I think it's to me it looked like Liam Cohen, the Bucks OC, returned to Tampa Bay, and he was kind of the guy to take the Jags job. So I think that he was just like, I can't go with Trent Baalke, and then the owner had to be like, oh, we got to let him go.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me, and that's just they're such a mess. So now they have no GM. They haven't even searched for a GM. They still got to get a head coach. Looks like, I mean, there's been 3 head coaching hires. Vrabel, Ben Johnson. We're about to talk about Aaron Glenn to the Jets, and then you're looking at Raiders are open, but I feel like that's kind of a nice spot, and you have Brady.
That'd be a more attractive spot if they had a quarterback. Because I think they have all the other pieces around a quarterback. They just don't have a quarterback.
If you think you have a quarterback in mind that you can get, and then Saints and Cowboys. Cowboys is still Cowboys, so that has interest. Saints, I don't know what's worse. I don't know if I'd rather Saints or Jacksonville. It's tough.
I'd rather have Jacksonville because Trevor Lawrence, although he's been very disappointing, there's still potential there. If you're a Saints, you have to work with Derek Carr and a team that's well over the cap. There's still ways Jacksonville can improve. And Jacksonville's also in a, I guess the Saints are also in a weak division, but I'd rather have the Jacksonville job just based on the fact that Trevor Lawrence's potential is much higher than anything that Derek Carr possesses. And you're going to – and like Derek Carr's a $50 million – like you can't even get out his contract.
I mean, you can get after it. Like he has like one more year on it where you're stuck. I mean, it kind of depends what you want because if you go to Jacksonville, you have to love Trevor Lawrence. Because if you go there and you're not sure and then you go there and you're like, then you're stuck with him and then you're just probably going to get fired after 2 years because it doesn't work. But the Saints, I feel like you could take a year to like kind of just do whatever and then you can figure it out from there. So, I don't know. Both not good. Both not good.
Yeah. Well, let's move to the next one that you just talked about. Aaron Glenn to the Jets, another Detroit Lions coordinator gone. We'll talk about the Lions here in a little bit. I mean, I like the hire from the standpoint that he's going to bring some stability. He came from a really good culture in Detroit. He also is a former New York Jets player, so he kind of gets the media there, kind of gets that whole landscape of the New York media. I'm a big fan of the hire, and Jets are an interesting spot because we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be. Aaron Rodgers, I'm assuming won't be there, but they really don't have. I think what pick are they? Like the 8th pick, 9th pick, somewhere around there. It's gonna be tough to get a quarterback there. I'm a fan of the hire. What say you? What do you feel about this hire?
I like the hire, but I don't love the hire. I think that he could bring a certain bit of toughness and things like that. Obviously, that Detroit culture you'd hope he'd bring to New York because they've just been a mess. I mean, the fear is that it's just another Saleh. And I think we saw that Saleh was not the worst coach. He wasn't the best, but he wasn't the worst. Once they got rid of him, their defense plummeted. And so it's really about, I mean, you need the quarterback. And I was seeing some stuff that Glenn may want to keep Rodgers around, which I think is, I don't think he's the worst quarterback, but I don't know if I'd want to keep him. I still think they should have given Jordan Travis some Week 18 snaps. I mean, why not just – I don't get why you didn't do that. But I like it. But I just don't love it. I'm like Ben Johnson's just obvious love. It's best – yeah. Aaron Glenn, I like it, but I feel like with the Jets, it would be nice if they had a quarterback. Because if it's like 2 years and they don't have one, no matter what the defense is doing with Aaron Glenn, it's just the same story all over again. So that's the real concern. And Aaron Glenn's not someone who's going to develop a quarterback himself. So his offensive staff hires are going to have to be really important. So I feel like I would have liked him with the Raiders. I feel like he could have been nice with the Raiders because you just got Tom Brady there, and that kind of helps all that out. And I feel like there's talent there where he could have built up the defense, the offense's talent. And I feel more confident in the Raiders to get a solid quarterback. Meanwhile, the Jets, I have little confidence. And that's really my concern. But I still like him as a head coach. Not too many defensive coordinators can be head coaches, in my opinion, but I still think some can. I do think Aaron Glenn is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of if you need a head coach, always get an offensive guy because if you have an offense coordinator that a lot of people are trying to pick off, he's just going to eventually leave, and you're going to have to figure that out again. But I mean, really, the Jets this year lack toughness, and you said that
Yeah.
you expect him to bring some toughness to that locker room, to that team. Their defense really fell off after what I believe was the wrong decision in firing Robert Saleh. They
Yeah.
really tackling was an issue, commitment was an issue. I think he'll bring some of that back to them. And I think if you could find an OC that can just make this offense competent, I think this defense is more than talented enough to not carry the load and carry them, but I do think be a supporting, cast to the offense. But I like the move. We'll see if it works out. We've seen a bunch of coaches that we like go to New York and kind of burn in flames because of ownership. But yeah, I think the quarterback's the biggest issue there is what they're going to do at quarterback. But I think everything else, you have talent there. If I were them, I would just cut ties with Aaron Rodgers, let Devontae walk, and kind of build this from the ground up again. And I'm tired. If I'm them, I'm tired of catering to Aaron Rodgers for 4 wins, 5 wins.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I'm going to start anew.
It's so ridiculous. I don't even know what their plan is at quarterback because that's the thing. What's their plan if they don't get Rodgers? You're not bringing Sam Darnold back. You're not going like Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. Probably not Stafford. Who else is even out there? I mean, not Kirk Cousins. You're not getting an old guy. If you're getting an old guy, you're just keeping Rodgers. Not bringing Daniel Jones back to New York. I think Jordan Travis, he may be their quarterback. I kind of liked him. I mean, you saw what Florida State happened once he got injured. Even though he may have not had all the typical pro skills, I mean, Florida State just became horrific. Even though they won, they were just terrible. So maybe he has some stuff. Yeah, I just don't know what their plan is there. And if they keep Rodgers, if you win like 8 games and you keep Rodgers, it's kind of a win. And it's like, okay, now we move on. And we had a season where we won some games.
There's too much with Rodgers, though.
If you win like 4 to 6 games with Rodgers, though, it feels like a wasted season. Like if you win 8 games, miss the playoffs, it just feels like Aaron Glenn learned how to coach and he won games and you're building winning games, which I think is valuable. And I think people underrate just like, hey, win some games, and just to help get the team.
And also, I don't like Garrett Wilson. Seems like he may want out if Rodgers.
Yeah, but I don't think that's fine by me. If you really want to keep Rodgers and you have to trade Garrett Wilson and get picked, it's not the end of the world because I think Wilson's pretty good, but he's just on that top tier level. But yeah, the Rodgers question is still looming. Probably just hope he retires, but I don't think he will.
Yeah. Let's now shift our focus over to the divisional round of the playoffs, and we'll start the NFC side of things and then go to the AFC side. So we'll keep common trend so far in this week's episode. We'll stay with the Lions. Commanders upset the Lions 45-31. The defense for the Lions really had no answers for Jane Daniels, especially the fact that they were so banged up. They had 8 starters out from week 1 and like 4 backups out. So there were a handful of third stringers in that game. I mean, really, the story in this game is Jane Daniels and his quick ascension as a top 5 quarterback in this league. I mean, the Lions had no answers for them. And the Commanders really outlioned the Lions, going forward on 4th down every single time and getting it. And it really is a punch in the gut for the Lions because last year they had the same mindset of let's go for it on 4th down in an NFC title game, and it didn't work out. And to see it work out so many times for the Commanders, it's really a gut punch for the Lions and the coaching staff. And I know the story's going to be about the Lions defense. I think it's the main reason they lost this game. But Jared Goff really didn't help Detroit at all with his turnovers. And really, that first turnover, that really felt that's when the Lions kind of lost grip of the game. Because if they score on that possession, you're up 14-3, and I don't think Commanders are really going to stop you at that point.
Yeah, as much as Ben Johnson, as we were just talking about Grady was, I feel like sometimes his calls and situations are not great, and that call there was weird. I feel like there's a chance it's like week 4. It's like Ben Johnson makes some really weird calls. So that's a possibility. But I still feel really good about the line. I'm going to start with the line. I feel really good about the Lions next year. They're going to get – they lost everyone. It was a massacre. Liam McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson early on. You lost Carlton Davis, who's having a great year. Then Amik Robertson got hurt mid-game. I mean, you lost linebackers, you lost pass rushers, you lost everything. And I know they lost their coordinators, but I still think Dan Campbell's built something, in my opinion. So I just think he's going to be able to get to people who've probably been – I assume they've had people ready to step up. I'm going to assume that, and I think they're going to have some good hires. But, yeah, Goff wasn't good, and that's a little bit of concern, but it was such a weird – he had to score every drive, and he made some nice plays, but you can also see that he was really trying to force it, which I respect that, but he just missed some throws, which you just don't expect. And then on the other side, Jane Daniels has to be the best rookie quarterback ever, already becoming a face of the league. I mean, we're doing a redraft. I think he is a legit, just right now, whole league. It's like you could argue he could be the first pick.
Oh, for sure, he's the number 2 pick. So of course he can.
But I'm saying entire redraft, like the entire league, who's the one player you'd want for your franchise? You can argue Jane Daniels. You can argue. I would still take Mahomes and Allen, but he'd slot in at number 3. Maybe. It's close. It's close with those top guys. But you can make an argument with his age and what you've seen and his weapons, where it's really like his Terry McLaurin and then a whole bunch of Zach Ertz,
It's a lot of number 3s and maybe lower number 2s.
Yes, and what he's doing is sensational. I mean, to win 2 playoff games, probably playing the best 2 weeks from a quarterback in the playoffs so far this year.
I think so, yeah. He's definitely. I think he's been the best quarterback in the playoffs.
He's so good. He's so good. This Eagles game was going to be so interesting, but you dropped 45. I know you had some help from defense getting takeaways, but it's like they just couldn't be stopped. They had that 4th down they went for where Mariota was supposed to flip it, and it's like that was the only time the Lions got stopped, and it's kind of lucky. He's so good. He doesn't make a single dumb mistake. Everything's great. LSU, when LSU has a quarterback and 2 receivers going in the first round, just know that they're going to be amazing. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, and it's very similar situations to Joe Burrow. They're very similar. This game, I thought the Lions were going to win this game clearly, because I had money on them, which I don't know why I ended up doing that because it wasn't that much value anyways. For me, I don't know, that Jared Goff is just I think the Lions are going to be fine. And what I'm going to say, you're probably going to jump on right away. And it's not going to be to the extent. I still think the Lions, have a much better coach than this team. But remember, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, lost both their coordinators, and they kind of took a step back. Now, the Lions, I don't think will go that far of taking that far of a step back where the team just falls apart. But I do think losing both your coordinators, especially Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell is a culture guy. He's not really a schematic guy. And Ben Johnson was the brains behind the offense. So does the offense take a step back? Jared Goff's not the most talented quarterback. He's pretty limited. I think you saw that in this game.
Yeah.
You can't really move. And once things go south, it's he kind of becomes flustered. He had 4 turnovers this game. Mm-hmm. And both the picks, in my opinion, were really bad. Now, he had one late in the game on the final drive. I don't really count that against him.
Yeah.
It's just desperation. But the pick 6 was bad. And the interception late in the first half when they're driving was also bad. Mm-hmm. And the fumble, it's not like he got hit that hard on the fumble either, back to your point of that, it was 3rd and 1. You already know you're going to go for it on 4th and 1 if you don't get it. And you have Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery. I don't understand that play call. I also don't understand the play call of having Jameson Williams, who's one of the biggest boneheads in the league.
He's really talented, but
that celebration he did, we're down by 10, and we have the season on the line, and we're putting the ball in Jameson Williams' hands to throw a pass.
Yeah.
Now, most players, if you had Amon-Ra throwing that pass, he probably throws it away. But the fact that they trusted Jameson Williams' judgment in that spot was head-scratching, to say the least, with Ben Johnson. That was one of Ben Johnson's poor decisions in the game, I think. You have to give Commanders all the credit in the world. The game plan, they were unstoppable in this game. And anything they did, it worked out. And running the ball, Brian Robinson's not even that efficient of a runner. I think he averages close to 3-point-something yards per carry during the season, and they were gashing this Lions defense for 7-8 yards per carry. It was really the Lions had no answers, and they was undermanned on defense. I think it was a clear story of the game.
I think if the Lions are healthy, they win. I mean, I don't think that's a question because, like, here's the thing with the Lions where you're saying, like, they lost Aaron Glenn. It's nothing against Aaron Glenn, but their defense can be better next year than no matter who the coordinator is because they're going to have everyone playing unless they all get hurt again. But it's going to be better. So, yeah, it's really with them. It's how much is Ben Johnson truly needed to call plays on that offense. I wonder how much Dan Campbell is involved in offensive stuff because he was an offensive player. I wonder if he did have. I
I
felt
don't
like
think
he
he's
had.
that much. I mean,
I
he
mean,
had
that's
some
what we
decisions, of
think.
course, to
But
go for it.
I mean, if you just look at it, like these trick plays that they run, it comes from Dan Campbell's mentality. So I wonder if there's some like I wonder if Dan Campbell wrote up the trick plays. I think that's pretty possible that he did some stuff. We don't know, but I think we'll see. It's the true test of Dan Campbell as a head coach now. How good are you truly? And I think he'll pass. But I mean, yeah. So I still feel good about the Lions and obviously Washington. I mean, you have your guy. You're good. I mean, you have an off season to draft, to spend money. Don't waste it. But they are. I would have never thought that Washington is looking like they could be one of the best teams for the next 10 years.
Well,
But
that was the
something
point.
like it.
That's the point I was about to make. Really, like NFL franchises that are dysfunctional. Of course, there's dysfunction in multiple franchises, but once you get the quarterback and head coaching combination right, that dysfunction goes away.
I mean,
Like the Chiefs,
Washington. Dan Snyder sold the team, so that's
well, of course that helps too. But like remember the Chiefs before Andy Reid got there,
well, yeah.
it was a complete disaster. And Andy Reid turns it around. They get Alex Smith, changes the culture, brings stability, and you get Patrick Mahomes in there.
No, yeah.
A
NFL
lot of these
teams can flip quickly.
Yeah, like Houston. Before they got C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans, there was that the whole Deshaun Watson stuff. They were getting the first pick year after year, first, second. They were a top 3 pick, I think, back-to-back years before they got Stroud. And then they get D'Amico Ryans and Stroud, and that turns around. Like, I think this function can all be erased if you get the quarterback and head coach combination right. And Dan Quinn, I was not a huge fan of the hire. I kind of thought it was like a sideways hire at the time when the Commanders hired him. I was like, I've seen the story before with him. He went to Atlanta, kind of flamed out, but now with the Commanders, I mean, that hire has definitely worked out. Now, when Cliff Kingsbury gets a head coaching job, which I think could be as soon as next year, what kind of happens with that? So, but I do think they're in good hands with Jane Daniels, of course.
I still think you get a head coaching job this year because I think if you're the Raiders and Jacksonville and Dallas and Saints, why wouldn't you wait? Who's the best one available?
Yeah, but I also think it has to go both ways though. Why would Cliff Kingsbury go to any of those spots if he doesn't?
I mean, he hasn't talked to them. He could get convinced. Let's say he goes.
I think he stays one more year, and we'll see what opens up.
I just still think the Raiders, when you have Tom Brady there, I think it's Tom Brady. It's just he's sports royalty. If you make a sports Mount Rushmore, he has to be on the all-time sports Mount Rushmore. I just think that it's Tom Brady being there means so much, and
I don't know, but Cliff Kingsbury, he's definitely a guy that he wants it. Like remember when he went to Arizona, they had Josh Rosen, and then he got his guy in Kyler Murray. So I think he's going to want a quarterback in place, and he's going to want to be choosing that quarterback. I just think he waits.
I mean, maybe they have a plan. I could see. I think Raiders. I don't think he'd go Jacksonville. I don't think he'd go anywhere but Raiders. And I have a feeling that maybe. I mean, I think these teams are going to wait, and he's going to take the calls if they're like, "Hey," and maybe get him in there, talk to him. We'll see, because like I'm thinking like Pete Carroll if he wants a job, Marcus Freeman if he comes down or comes up from Notre Dame, then you're not really looking at much else. So I think it's interesting what happened to Cliff.
Let's stay within the NFC East with the Eagles. Eagles and the Rams faced off on Sunday. It really felt like the same game from the previous week with the Eagles and Packers. Offense carried by Saquon. Defense had to pretty much stifle the Rams. And the Rams had a shot to win this game on the final drive of the game. And for me, the Eagles are clearly the better team than the Rams. I think way more talented, way more depth. They really have the edge everywhere outside of quarterback. And watching these 2 games from Eagles, I have not been impressed at all. I think it's very dependent on Saquon Barkley. And Saquon's been a stud this season, coming from the Giants, really carrying this team to where it is now. I don't know if the Eagles are a playoff team without Saquon. I really don't. I don't. If Saquon's not there, I don't know if they're a playoff team. I mean, Jalen Hurts is super limited, and now he's injured. I really have hesitation believing the Eagles.
See, I feel the same way, but I still feel like Hurts played well. I think he had a Devontae Smith drop. He had an A.J. Brown drop. If those two catches happen, that's 60 more yards. That's another touchdown, and we're talking about it differently. And I think he made some nice throws. A.J. Brown had multiple drops. A.J. Brown was bad. He did have the big slant, and Jalen Hurts was hurt, and he's still able to get some stuff going. I don't think he played fantastic, but I think he played kind of well, especially it's horrific weather, and it's like you got to play through that as well. And he wasn't doing anything stupid. He didn't throw any like really salient balls much. But yeah, it's still something still off. I don't know exactly what it is.
It's Jalen Hurts.
I don't think it's fully Jalen Hurts because I think A.J. Brown drops a ball, Devontae Smith drops a deep ball. A.J. Brown drops another ball. It's like a big third down and up the middle, and he kind of just long-armed it and dropped it. So I think there has to be something with the play calling. That's my obviously I'm not X and O's expert, but I think it's something play calling wise. That's just my guess. But it was also really snowy. You're gonna have a chance against Washington, doesn't have the best defense. So I think that'll be really telling. But I think I'd still take Eagles. I still like the roster and stuff. So, and Rams are an experienced team, so I still think it's a good win. But it was not good that the Rams had a chance, though. That was
the Eagles roster is absolutely loaded, and the fact that I don't care the drops, yeah, that's something. But Jalen Hurts, I think, was sacked 7-8 times in this game. That's arguably the second best offensive line in the league.
I don't think they played like it though. They didn't play like
Jalen Hurts holds on. If you watch it, Jalen Hurts holds onto the ball. Like, he is not a pocket passer. He holds onto the ball, and I think a lot of the play calling is because of his limitations. What throws? I already know the three type of throws that Jalen Hurts is consistently throwing because there's nothing else he could really do. It's slants, hitch routes, and go balls. That's all he throws. When you watch this offense, that's the entire offense. He's not throwing out routes. When he throws out routes, the ball gets there late. Now, sometimes it gets there because the receiver's open, but he throws the ball late. He holds on to the ball.
He's averaging less than 150. He's not perfect. He has plenty of issues. But I still think he played well. Less than
150. When I watch this offense, there's too much talent on this offense and the receiving and running back department where Jalen Hurts is averaging less than 150 passing yards per game. The Eagles, they have I think of the four remaining teams, they have the best offensive line. I think depth-wise, best defensive line. You have the best running back, probably the best receiving tandem left. But your head coach and quarterback are the reasons. I think they entering the divisional round, you probably rank them in 8th place of 8 teams entering the divisional round in those departments. I disagree. If they had a stronger quarterback or stronger quarterback play in general, I think they'd be the landslide favorites to win Super Bowl. Even based on the fact that Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and Eagles are favorites right now. But I think they'd be bigger favorites if they had strong quarterback play.
See,
you put Jay Daniels on that team, I don't know who beats that team.
Yeah, Jay Daniels top 5 quarterback. I mean, I still put more of it on Sirianni because I just watching Hurts, I thought he played well. I mean, he took some sacks. Yes, those are bad. But a lot of those, like the O-line they were allowing some pressure. And they just were. I mean, Fisk was getting – Rams have a good D-line, and I think they were winning a lot. But I still think, A.J. Brown was dropping passes. He dropped a couple passes. I mean, you can't deny that. Devontae Smith dropped passes. Even though he got clocked, he still dropped a big pass. He was not able to bring it in. I think he made some nice throws at Goddard. I think he made timely throws late, even though, I mean, I think like their play calling, they had him roll out while he's hurt. They had him roll out, and he immediately got met. I forgot who met him, but he was just like right there. So it's like, okay, just take the sack. It's like, what am I supposed to do? So I still think it's coaching and play calling that's holding them back more. I know that Hurts has issues and he could hold them back in moments, but I don't think he's been that bad right now. I think it's been play calling.
I think the play calling's been. But if it is bad, I think it's because they're coaching around Hurts.
To take into account, he had a 40-something yard rushing touchdown, and no matter if it's not thrown or what, that contributed to the win. He did that as well.
I don't have any problems with running ability.
But no, you're not. But you're just mentioning the passing. But his rushing yards are still yards. If you're quarterback and you run for 200 yards and pass for 100, guess what? You're at a 300-yard performance. And I think
that's fine. But like to win a Super Bowl, I don't think that it may work this round. But if it's either the Bills or Chiefs, and you think you're just going to run for 200 yards and that's going to be enough to win, first of all, Chiefs they don't let you run. So if you're playing Chiefs, good luck getting a run in the game. Now, Mixon did gash him a little bit. We'll talk about that game here soon. But you're not going to win a Super Bowl against Mahomes or Josh Allen with Hurts playing like this. You're just not.
No, yeah, he needs to play better. But right now, I don't think he's the main issue. I just don't.
For me, I think I don't see any other issue with this team.
I'm literally just looking at he had like 240 passing yards if there wasn't a couple drops.
No, okay.
And that and then if you have that plus like 60 rushing yards with a 45-yard touchdown, that's 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. He still played well. I think he played well. I'm not saying he played fantastic, but I think he played well. And drops were an issue, and I think play calling was an issue. And
well, I also think he'd have more yards if there's times there was like 4 or 5 plays I saw. I was watching Get Up on ESPN the other day, and they were breaking out. There was 4 to 5 plays where he didn't throw the ball. The players are wide open, and he doesn't throw it. Like he would have more yards if he simply threw the ball. That's my point. He holds onto the ball, and then he's taking these sacks.
If you want to go by that, though, Dan Orlovsky, who you're talking about, also said during the Packers-Eagles game that no one was open on the Eagles all game. That's what he said for that.
Okay, fine. The Packers. I'm talking about the Rams game.
I know, but we're talking about Hurts in general through these playoffs. I think obviously he hasn't been great, but I still don't think he's a main issue. He had like
60 passing yards in the first half against the Packers, and he had like 61 this past.
Yeah, but Orlovsky was saying no one was open. But okay, in the first half, he also had a 45-yard rushing touchdown. I'm not saying he's great, but you're acting like he's like playing like an absolute bum. Like he's not. His feet contribute. I don't think
a lot well at all. We're disagree on that.
He helps Saquon. His feet, the thread of his feet, are also always helping Saquon. And because he ran for 70 yards and touchdown. But the entire time, the team is also having to worry about Hurts. Now, if he can't run because he's hurt, that changes everything. But his threat of running, and I also think he's a very smart runner when he has it, it's always going to be a threat. It's always going to be an issue that allows Saquon to have even bigger holes to run through. So his contributions are always going to be there like that.
Let's move to the AFC side. That's just a point we're going to disagree on, but we'll move on to the AFC side of things. Let's start with the Chiefs game. Of course, there's always going to be controversy with officiating when it comes to Chiefs in the playoffs. I thought there was 2 really bad calls. The roughing the passer call was bad. The call where Mahomes basically is plopped down after trying to avoid a few tackles and gets a unnecessary roughness call, I thought was pretty bad. But I think all in all, I think the Chiefs deserve to win this game. You sacked C.J. Stroud 8 times. I believe Mahomes only got sacked once or twice in this game, or 3 times, one of those numbers. I thought all in all the Chiefs deserve to win this game. So if people are going to say the officiating is the reason Chiefs won, I absolutely disagree with that. I do agree that the officiating was bad in spots that kind of led to points for Chiefs, but the Chiefs deserve to win this game. And Texans, the special teams department was really bad, and the offensive line got beat again. Like George Karlaftis had 3 sacks in this game. So I'm not going to take much. If people want to say, the officiating gave the Chiefs the win, that's bullcrap.
I mean, yeah, it didn't give the Chiefs the win, but it was – I mean, I don't want to talk about the officiating a lot, but as a Chiefs fan, I'm going to fully admit that was bad. And, I got upset watching that. It's like, come on. It's
no, I get it too. Especially Mahomes flopping, he slows down, silence.
No, yeah, it was just bad, and I fully understand people getting mad, but yeah, I don't think it contributed to Chiefs winning. But at the same time, it's like, were Chiefs really that much better? I mean, or were the Chiefs good? They were better, but were they good? I don't think they were good. I just don't. Texans, first off, it's not like they're
Texans
good.
Control that game. Third quarter, I think the first drive's
they're not a good team
minutes.
Right now. They built their team on having 3 passing weapons, and they lost their second and third one, which, again, was just stupid, and why you don't do that. That's just such a stupid thing to do, get 3 receivers who are good. It's the dumbest thing that teams do. It's like when teams get big threes in the NBA. But, I mean, the Texans so the Texans had bad calls against them. They had bad special teams. It's still a 9-point game. That's not good if you're the Chiefs. That's just not it. You played bad. Kelsey had to do a ton. I mean, like, I'm not expecting Kelsey to do that this week. You're just not running the ball that well. You're having to put Kareem Hunt in big situations. You got a good pass rush, but the Texans' O-line is also decimated and not that good. I just didn't come away positive from the game at all as a Chiefs fan. I mean, it's still the Chiefs, so you got to be like, oh, well, we're the Chiefs. But there are some blatant issues there that I just don't think get solved. I mean, could get solved, but just if it weren't for the Chiefs' reputation and what I've seen them do after not looking great, I'd be insanely worried. But
the
yeah,
thing is, you have to base everything on reputation. They've won back-to-back Super Bowls.
you have to.
The thing is, like last year, they had worse resources than what they have now in terms of weapons, and it was like, how are the Chiefs going to figure out this passing game? Now, it is worrisome that Kelsey had 117 yards of Mahomes. Like, I don't know how many yards Mahomes ended up finishing.
Like 180. Yeah, he's not throwing for a lot of yards.
That is worrisome, but like
Hollywood Brown dropped the ball.
There's more resources in the passing game, and I'm not really worried about the Chiefs. They do that. They've done this all year where they don't look good, and they still win games. And last year in the playoffs, it wasn't pretty. They still won games. They went on the road in 2 games and won both of them.
I think the rushing defense was really concerning, especially
here's my
when
thing
you're about to face the Bills, who just had this very nice running game, and that's an issue.
My thing is, and this isn't an excuse, but I do think it played a factor. I mean, this team was off for 3 weeks essentially.
But they chose to be off for that's a problem.
But
they chose to be off.
Rusty.
But you chose to be off, and everyone was for it. And take it off.
I'm not saying that you.
No, but I don't. This doesn't because everyone was for it, but then everyone's calling them rusty. But they're a team who has won back-to-back Super Bowls and 3 in the past 5 years. You're not really allowed to be rusty if you got it off and you chose it off, and everyone said you should choose to take that week off. I don't think it's rust. I don't think it's rust because you saw the pass rush is great. But the run defense was not good. I just don't think it was rust. I just think it was the Chiefs not playing well. And they're too well coached and too much experience and to be rust because the guy who took 3 weeks off, Kelsey, had like 117 yards. I don't think it was rust.
Well, there's 53 men on a roster. It's not going to be one. I think offensively.
Yeah, but like 40 of them have won Super Bowl, like multiple Super Bowls, like 30 of them. It's like they're experienced guys. I mean, you just saw things like I don't think it was rust that Will Anderson was doing a really good job. I think Joe Tooney's been great at left tackle, but Will Anderson's like one of the best pass rushers. So that was just something. But I don't know. It's not great, and I'm not gonna try to make excuses for the Chiefs who won back-to-back Super Bowls. You're not in the excuses. You're too good for that.
I also think Chiefs play up and down to their competition. So
that's definitely a thing.
Like I think when they face the Bills, they're going to play one of the best games of the year. Now, will it result in win? Who knows? But like I do think the Chiefs play down to their competition. Like Houston, when they faced Houston a few weeks ago, it was kind of the same story. Houston's kind of hanging around, and coming into that game, Houston was terrible offensively. So I'm not really worried about the Chiefs. I never am because they always figure it out. And we saw like last year, they were a much worse team last year. They were 10-7 last year in the 3 seed. They were 15-1 with their starters this year. I'm not too concerned. I do want to see Hopkins step up. I mean, this is his first time in an AFC title or in a title game. I want to see him step up. Worthy has developed into a pretty nice weapon. Marquise Brown's kind of hit or miss. I mean, he's only been in the lineup for a few weeks now, coming back from an injury. So maybe we'll never see him find his footing in this offense. But the running game's the biggest concern for me with the Chiefs offensively. And Pacheco, like people are saying, oh, Pacheco's bad. Pacheco's falling off. I think, and we've seen this before with players, you break your tibula or fibula, it was one of those two. It takes you a while to get back. Like Tony Pollard had the same injury. It took him like a full season and a half.
There's a difference.
Mark Andrews had the same injury. We thought Mark Andrews after that injury, we were like, man, is he washed? Like we were thinking that. A lot of people were thinking that like a few weeks after like he came back from the injury. So yeah, Pacheco, I'm not saying he's like a world-class running back. He's a top 10 running back, but like he was very productive in his offense. And for people to say, oh, he's just not good anymore, maybe this injury caused him to not be good anymore. But I also think let's give him some time. I mean, like if next season it's the same story, the Chiefs will draft a running back in this draft class. They just will. Like Pacheco's a 7th round pick for a reason. but I don't think he's like a bum like some
But
people.
okay, not a bum, but here's what we're looking at. All the big situations, who gets it? We've seen it now. Yeah, it's all the big situations. We've seen it now. That's just not like, oh, I'm recovering from my leg. That's like there's a guy who we trust because like his running IQ is really high and things like that, even though he's physically like a shell of himself. He's also playing for the Chiefs. So you get a little less. You're playing with great quarterback, great offensive mind, head coach.
I get all these arguments, yeah.
But and also you're talking about Tony Pollard. With Tony Pollard, what he did before that was like 1,400 yards or something. Pacheco's no. I mean, but we're also talking about Pacheco for this year. So I understand your point to extent, but like the Chiefs need Pacheco now, and
No, I get that. Yeah,
he's not like you could probably rank at least 25 running backs better than Pacheco. Honestly, I mean, it'd be interesting to go through the list of how many running backs you think are better than Pacheco. But, yeah, that's a concern because if it's like Chiefs are down, it's like we're going to have Kareem Hunt and Samaje Perine in there. Like, yeah, they each have been solid, but they're old and not that athletic, and
yeah.
we'll see.
No, I do think Chiefs address the running back position during the draft. It's a stacked running back class. So I do think they end up taking one.
Yeah, that it would be nice to have like. I mean, who knows? Who knows how
like
to
a
go?
Devin Neal, something like
Yeah,
that.
Devin Neal's so good.
I wouldn't mind somebody like that. But yeah, there's a ton of running backs. They'll draft one mid to late round again. They'll do that. The final game we'll talk about the Bills and the Ravens. This game really felt like the Ravens beat themselves. It really felt like they should have won this game. The first half, I think, played a great amount into the result of the game. They really shot themselves in the foot a couple times with Lamar Jackson turnovers. And I don't want to make this a Lamar Jackson thing again because I do not think it was the main problem in this game. I actually think he played fairly well. It was just that first half where he played quite poorly. But in the playoffs, he can't really put full games together. He played well against Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh, it's like you don't really have to do much. I was impressed with him in that game, though, because he has had problems against Pittsburgh, has had problems in the playoffs in general. But I think the Ravens, each and every year, it's the same thing we're talking about. They get in their own way every single year. Like every single year is like, man, they probably should have won the game, but they didn't run the ball. Or in this situation, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I think the fact that they were 1 for 5 on 2-point conversions this year is pathetic when you have And I don't remember on the top of my head, but like there's at least 3 instances where I remember they threw the ball on 2-point conversions. Against Pittsburgh early in the year, they didn't have Derrick Henry on the field for the play. It was a rollout play that didn't work. I don't understand why
It's ridiculous.
Like, I would run a read option every single time.
Yeah, it'd be so. Yeah, I mean, here's my takeaway: Lamar definitely screwed this up, but he also the main concern with Lamar throughout his entire career was throwing the football. We all know that, and he's slowly gotten better, and then is throwing it in the playoffs. And you know what? He made one bad throw. That was a terrible throw, and it had to be that he thought Bateman was going more up or something because that was just so off. But he rushed it. I know. Okay, yeah, but yeah, it was not a good throw. But every other throw he made was really good. Like so I feel like in this game you could put blame on Lamar, and at the same time I feel good about Lamar in the future being able to win because. The one thing he needs to take, he's taken away issues. First, it was just like throwing, and it was like being able to win a playoff game, and then be able to win it while throwing, and this. So the last thing he needs to just take away is turnovers in the playoffs. And if he takes that away, then there's nothing else that he's doing wrong.
Has it been 4 consecutive games where he's had 2+ turnovers? Is that the stat?
Something like that. But
I saw a stat since 2018, and this is kind of a Lamar stat, but it's also just a Ravens stat in general. They have 16 giveaways and 3 takeaways in playoffs.
It's bad, but
that's the problem with the team.
If you're following Lamar's career, it's all about steady progress with him. And if you don't think he's made steady progress, then you're just not watching.
I'm not. No, I think like.
But he's made. But that's my point. I think he has another step, and this next step for him will be finding a way to limit turnovers because I now think he can make all the throws. Like if you're watching, he can make all the throws. He made great throws in this game. He was, besides 2 plays, he played fantastic, but those are just 2 terrible plays. So I think this is in his growth as a quarterback. And I think it's
taking a sack on 2nd and goal is also bad, but I think that was also play calling. I don't know if you remember that play. They had 1st and goal at the 2, And Derrick Henry it was like third quarter. Derrick Henry gets
stuffed.
Yeah,
that was not.
Which
was
I
not
don't
the
know
best.
why you. I don't know if they want to prove that Lamar Jackson can keep up pace with these other quarterbacks throwing the ball, passing wise. I don't know why you still run the ball 3-4 times in a row there, Derrick.
No, yeah, it's like they always have to make every play different than the previous play. Where they got outcoached. They got so outcoached. I think that's
every year.
Yeah, this is the John Harbaugh thing starting to get a little iffy. And if it happens again next year,
I've been thinking this for a while. Last year, they ran 6 times against the Chiefs in that title game.
If it happens next year, then I think we may have to have Harbaugh's great, but we may have to move on from Harbaugh if it happens again in similar fashion. But this was Sean McDermott's greatest coaching game ever, because I think they kind of knew it's snowy. The Ravens beat themselves. Let's just not beat ourselves. Let's just run the ball the whole time. You want Josh Allen, throw for 100 yards.
Yeah,
just run the
ball.
A lot
of screen passes and
just go get 4 yards on a QB power if you need to, Josh. I mean, I think the Bills. I think they're going to play completely different. I forgot who I saw said this. I had the same thought, but they articulated it really well. Where the Bills are going to play completely different than they did against Ravens against the Chiefs. Because the Ravens was just. I feel like it was someone on ESPN, but the Ravens just. The Chiefs are probably not going to beat themselves, so you got to go beat them. Oh, my God. I think it may have been Stephen A. Smith, crazy enough. It may have been. I may be wrong, but I feel like it may have been. But now you go all out against the Chiefs. But I feel like the Bills 2 years ago would have gone all out against the Ravens, and then maybe they make a mistake that helps the Ravens fix their own mistakes. So I think that's obviously Mark Andrews, not a good Mark Andrews game.
No, the two-point conversion is Mark Andrews' fault, but I do think Lamar took a little long to throw the ball. I think he had Mark Andrews open.
That's super looking at it. You got to catch that. I don't care.
No. I'm still I think Lamar.
He took it and he was safe with it because he trusted his not a Hall of Fame, probably not Hall of Fame, but borderline Hall of Fame tight end to catch. It was in his chest. I don't think you.
Yeah, no. Mark Andrews. If I would think a blame pie, he's probably 45 to 50% the reason they lost this game.
I honestly put more blame on the coaching.
He also fumbled the ball. He also fumbled the pass when they were driving down by 5 early. The drive before, where they could have gone up.
The Bills not going for it and just kicking the field goal, also great coaching, because you still would have had time.
No, I think Joe Brady deserves most of the credit because before he got there, Ken Dorsey was the OC. We've seen what he is. I mean, he's not good. Mm-hmm. He's with Cleveland this past year, got fired. He's turned Josh Allen into a completely different quarterback, taking care of the ball, not taking risks, or taking educated risks, not forcing every pass. Mm-hmm. And I think getting rid of Stephon Diggs, you kind of saw it when the Chiefs got rid of Tyreek Hill. Mahomes felt like he had to get the ball to Tyreek Hill every single play. Now it's just I'm going to get to the guy who's open. I'm going to run the play and pass it where it's supposed to go. Not, this guy's open, but I got to make my guy happy. Mm-hmm. That's no longer a part of the offense. So I think getting rid of Diggs was a huge benefit to his team. Now you're seeing Josh Allen just play clean quarterback. And I like the Bills. I think their main problem for me when picking them, in this next game, their defense is still. I mean, you still gas their defense pretty easily, and now they have a couple more injuries on defense side of the ball. We'll see.
I mean, gash the defense easily is Lamar playing really well.
Well, no, but the Ravens just ran up and down the field. The Ravens should have won this game. I really think Ravens outplayed the Bills.
But I think they outplayed them. But I think they outplayed them because I think the Bills kind of allowed it. I think that's the point of how they outcoached them. They allowed it. And I think they're going to play completely differently against the Chiefs because you can't do this against the Chiefs. You can't go super safe. You got to go for the throw. And I think that's what they're going to do. I mean, Bills just ran it, even though James Cook 17 carries for 67 yards. That's 3.9 a carry. But really, he just did his job. Shakir was really good. And then besides that, no one else. I mean, Lamar is still he didn't have Zay Flowers, Bateman 66, likely 73. The Bills I think they just knew what the game was going to be like, and they just said, we're going to be safe. And I think it worked out so well. Also, Dallas Cowboys are expected to make Brian Schottenheimer their new head coach. That's something.
Welcome to mediocrity, Dallas. Yeah. Welcome to. Well, no, you've been in mediocrity for 30 years now, but you're not it. That's such a.
I mean, low key, I think the offense. I mean, it looked pretty good with Cooper Rush, so maybe
that was okay. That was Mike McCarthy play calling.
But how much? See, we
Mike
don't
McCarthy
always
play
know.
caller.
But we don't. Okay, but we don't always know. There's so many little intricate things that we don't know. Brian Schottenheimer could have had a lot to do with it. I'm not going to act like he did or didn't, but we don't know. Saying that he wasn't doing stuff, I mean, we just truly don't know.
I've seen this guy's OC before. He's not.
The air offense looked pretty good. They looked pretty good.
Okay, but coordinator is also different than head coaching.
No, I know, but I'm not going to hate it. We'll just obviously it seems like another Jerry Jones gets a guy he can control, but I'm going to give him a shot.
I'm not going to give any benefit of the doubt to Dallas whatsoever.
Oh, yeah,
what have they done the last 3 decades that show, this actually may be a good move?
I mean, they've won 3 years before this year. They won 36 games. Still good. If you want to act like that's not good, then it is
okay,
good.
That's with a different head coach.
Yeah, but everyone hated that head coaching hire. I think Mike McCarthy was a pretty solid head coaching hire. He didn't win a Super Bowl, but that's how he graded everyone. I don't know, but back to the Bills-Ravens. I saw that. I don't think it's official, but I saw that they're closing in on him. That's such a Cowboys hire, but yeah, I think the Bills they just played their game. They played how they wanted to play, and they executed. And the Ravens just tried to outdo them with their superior talent, but couldn't in the end. That's how. Blame pie. I honestly put it more on coaching than Mark Andrews.
Oh, coaching is definitely part of the form.
But I think that's my number one in the game. I think they got insanely outcoached to where the Bills, if they had to, the Bills could have tried to throw it up and down. They could have, but I think they just said, we don't need to. We don't need to. We let them make their first half mistakes. We didn't do anything stupid. Now we're just going to slow this game down, and that's what they did.
Let's stay on the. We are now going to preview each of the title games, and we usually make picks, but we're more this week. We're just going to preview the games, keys to the games, kind of how we think the team should play, and we'll eventually make the pick as well. But let's stay with AFC with the Bills and the Chiefs. Chiefs and Bills. I believe Chiefs are favored by 1.5 in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Bills have been. I believe these have been the 2 best teams all year. Now you say Baltimore, but I think Chiefs have always been. They've been the top all year. They've had the best record in the league for the entire year, and the Bills have been the most consistent they've been in a while. Josh Allen's been consistent, really good, doesn't turn over the ball. I think the main key to this game is Chiefs stopping the Bills' run. I think that's when I think of keys to the game. That's the first thing that pops to my head.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. I think if you could contain the Bills' run game and maybe you could get a Josh Allen turnover or 2 if you stop the run game. And it's also like the Bills have now entered that, like the Eagles a couple years ago, every first down is like 1st and 9 or 1st and 8. And that's how basically the Bills have been playing. So let's get 4 yards, 5 yards on the first 2 plays.
Mm-hmm.
And you run it on 3rd and 1 with Josh Allen or one of these running backs.
And that's dangerous.
I think stopping the run on 1st and 2nd down, especially 1st down, will be monumental for the Chiefs if they want to win this game.
No, yeah, that's if the Bills run the ball really well. Mahomes would have to have a Mahomesian game, which he hasn't really been able to have with what's been happening with the offense. You basically said everything I said. I kind of previewed it a little when I was talking about the Bills game, but yeah, you got to be able to stop the run because it could set up some deep plays for Josh Allen. And I think that kind of goes with the Chiefs. So you have Trent McDuffie, who's a great corner, but there's not one guy who really runs the Bills offense. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's kind of a bad matchup, I feel like, for the Chiefs secondary, because I don't think they're as all-around talented as they used to be, but they have a really good top guy. But McDuffie's importance is diminished a lot in this game. Now, maybe put on Shakir, and Shakir's obviously like the main dude, but then you still have Keon Coleman. Curtis Samuel's doing more. Amari Cooper still has talent, and that's a little concerning. So it's about the run game setting up Josh Allen to spread it out. I think that's really what it's about. They can run the ball well. Then Josh is set up to easier spread it out. But if Chiefs stop the run, then, Josh Allen's still able to play Superman, but then it's just much more difficult for him to play Superman.
Yeah, and I think, like, the last time these 2 played, there's no Marquise Brown, and I believe Jalen Watson was also out that game. I believe he wasn't part of the Chiefs defense as well. I may not be remembering that correctly, but I believe Watson was out there. Because Watson, how long had he been out? He had been out.
He may have been out. See, who was out? I think the Bills, one of their tackles was out, if I remember correctly. Shakir had a good game. See, that's if you look back at that game, Shakir had 70, Samuel had 58, Cooper had 55, Knox had 40, Matt Collins had 27. So I mean, he spread it out, and the Bills actually ran the ball really poorly against the Chiefs and still won. 31 carries, 104 yards. Yeah, they did not run the ball well. My goodness. But that was Josh Allen. I mean, after that game, that's when I said Josh Allen's MVP, and I don't think he's going to win it, and I think it's stupid. But if you watch a game like that where they couldn't run the ball and then Josh just won it for them, I don't think it doesn't look like Watson's in the stat sheet. Mahomes threw 2 picks that game. Worthy played pretty solid. Kelsey had 2 for 8.
Yeah, it was. I think Noah Gray had one. Did Noah Gray have 2 touchdowns that game?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a completely different game. That game was in Buffalo. This one's in Kansas City this time around. I think getting Jalen Watson back is going to be huge. I don't think you're going to be seeing those receivers. You may see Shakir still do what he does because he's the number one guy. But like last week against the Ravens, the Bills receivers, it was Shakir, and everybody else was pretty pedestrian. Keon Coleman's a hit or miss guy. Yeah. He's really a big play guy. He doesn't create separation, and Chiefs secondary is pretty good. They're pretty.
I mean, but that's the thing. I don't think it is that good, Logan. I think it has Trent McDuffie in it. And
Jalen Watson's number, number 2, and then
but Watson's a good number 2, but he just came back, and I mean, we saw against the Texans. See, what's a little concerning? What concerned me against the Texans is let me go to the stats for the Texans game.
Yeah, but there's no. I don't think there's.
Jalen you saw Watson like Hutchinson. Game. No, I'm talking about what just happened. Hutchinson had like a good game. You saw Mechie get open a couple times. It's like but you're just amping that up with Josh Allen, and then with better protection, and then with better receivers than what the Texans have.
Yeah, I really think this game comes down to Chiefs' defensive line because I think also gain a pass rush is also going to be huge. For the like I think offense will figure it out in spots. Situationally, the offense will figure it out in spots. And this isn't to say that I don't trust the defense, but I do think this game comes down to what the defense does against Josh Allen. Like if the Chiefs can contain Josh Allen and make it difficult on him consistently throughout the game, I do give the Chiefs a really good shot at this game.
I think this is the first playoff game where Allen's more important than Mahomes, that they faced each other. I think it's more about Allen than it is about Mahomes, and I think this is the first time that's the case. Maybe not more important, but
I think they're equal because the Chiefs, like you said, have no run game right now. So I think Mahomes
I still think it's more about Allen than Mahomes. I feel like if they play the same, I don't know. It's just, I think just Allen can make more of an impact.
If they play the same, I'm giving the edge to the Chiefs.
I think Allen can do more. I think Allen's impact is just higher in this game. It's just because of how the Chiefs' offense is. It's not as much Mahomes' fault. Just Josh can change so. Even though Mahomes can do a lot on his feet as well, just what Josh can do is just on another level on his feet. So yeah,
how do we think this game plays out? What are you? Where are you leaning, and what do you think? Like flow of the game. Where do you not just a pick, but what key parts in the game do you think make it the outcome that it is?
I mean, I think it's I don't think it's like Chiefs or Bills Ravens where the first half decides it. It's all 4 quarters. It's all 4 quarters, but. I mean, if you look at sports, just kind of some things just happen in sports where it's like a progression, a pattern. And I think this is the Bills' year. I just do. And it's not I just think it's the year. I think that I don't want it to be the year, but just all year I've just been like Josh Allen has risen to a level where it's like he's almost going to be on par with Mahomes is how I'm feeling. Like it's not Mahomes has gone down. It's just Allen is elevating to that level as Patrick Mahomes. And this is not Mahomes' A+ year. The weapons are not there. It just feels like it's Bills. And as much as I want to pick Chiefs, I mean, you're looking at that past Chiefs-Bills game. They couldn't run the ball, and Allen was Superman. And it's going to be like 35 degrees, so he's going to be able to no cold limitations. So I'm going to take Bills here. I think it's going to play out very similarly to previous game where they kind of have the lead the whole time a little bit. and they just don't give it away.
For me, it's hard for me to pick against the Chiefs. I'm gonna stick with the Chiefs in this one. It's very hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. Like we saw Ravens beat the Bills 35-10, and then they lose this one. And I'm not just basing everything on that, but it is very tough. It's also tough to beat the Chiefs twice a year. Nonetheless, just beating one team twice a year. I think the Chiefs win this one. I do think weather could come. It could be pretty windy. This is a night game. The sun will be down pretty much from kickoff to the end of the game. I'm going to trust the Chiefs in this one. I am much more scared of the Bills than I was the Ravens. Like watching that game, I wanted the Ravens to win. As a Chiefs fan, I'd much rather face the Ravens because the points we made, they get in their way. I don't necessarily trust Lamar against the Chiefs. They don't play their game at all when they play the Chiefs. They really go away from the run. Josh Allen does scare me, but really when you look at it, this Bills team, it's really Josh Allen or nothing. And I know the run game is also very good, but Josh Allen's the main reason. He is the reason that they are where they are at this point. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I think it's going to be a lower score. I think it's going to be like 23-20, 24-20. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Chiefs defense has been playing well, keeping them in ball games. But I'm going to give the Chiefs a slight edge this one. It's just tough for me to pick against the Chiefs in this spot, especially when they're 3-0 against the Bills in the playoffs. I
just feel like it's like Brady Manning. I think this is because it took Manning a while, but then he finally beat him. And they won. And I see this being the path, and this is where you have the two heads of the league finally. I think this is where Mahomes gains his equal. And obviously I'm picking Bills to win and then win the Super Bowl no matter who they face.
Well, I think the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, I think basically everyone's saying that. Yeah.
Let's move on to the other side. This is the final game we'll talk about. Eagles and Commanders. The last time these two played, Jane Daniels led the team on a game-winning drive. They came back in that game. I believe this game was like 28-7 or something like that. 21.
This is when Hurts got hurt, and
yeah, Hurts suffered the concussion. I mean, I think the key to this game is the Eagles' offense. I don't have any questions about the Commanders' offense, really. I think it's the Eagles' offense and the Commanders' defense against the run game. But if Hurts is not 100% and unable to really make plays with his feet, I don't really see where his offensive production comes from other than Saquon Barkley. And Saquon's been a monster, but like, will teams just basically stack the box and force Jalen Hurts to beat them? I think that's the question of this game.
See, while I liked Washington last week, their defense has just got takeaways. That's all they did. They got some takeaways. I mean, even when they were playing when it was 20-7, Jalen Hurts, before he got hurt, had one completion, and they were still dominating them. In like a quarter and a half, he ran for 41 yards, and Saquon did Saquon stuff. And Washington, like, obviously Jane Daniels, I mean, he's so insane. But I do think this is now the NFC title game where you're facing, what are you better at than the Eagles besides quarterback and head coach possibly?
No, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
You're worse at O-line, and you lost Sam Cosmi. That's huge.
Now, Quentin Mitchell, we'll see his stats for the game. He was limited yesterday. We'll see.
Yeah.
If he's not playing, I think it makes it a little bit.
Slays look good, and you still have Cooper DeJean, so they still have people. Not as good a receiver, even though Eagles receivers aren't really producing. Obviously not better at running back. Tight ends a wash. Those are pretty even. But then defensive line, we know who's better. Secondary, we know who's better. Washington's path is a shootout. That's their only path, in my opinion. It has to be exact same as Lions. You just have to. Jane Daniels has to be another just insane game, and the possibilities of that I think are just so tough. I mean, he's gonna have to, because that Lions defense was decimated. He wasn't getting rushed. He got to chill, but now you're facing the Eagles pass rush, which has really kind of, I think, has gotten even better. You're looking at like. Nolan Smith is really getting it going. He's becoming a stud. 3 sacks in the playoffs so far. I don't see many paths. That's my thing.
To be honest, like, this league comes down to quarterback play and coaching and spots. I don't see. It's tough to not pick Jane Daniels on the spot, and right now, I just don't trust Jalen Hurts enough like I agree with everything you said. They have the edge in every position except quarterback and head coach.
See, here's what Jalen Hurts doesn't do, though. He doesn't make mistakes. He has not made no matter what you want to talk about his play, which he's had plenty of just like hasn't played great. And with this team, with how it's built, you're kind of allowed to do that. And he hasn't thrown a pick since November 10th. And usually I like quarterbacks throwing picks, but you don't need to throw picks on this team. You just don't. You have the best running game in football. You have two weapons who could make plays in receiving game every once in a while. You have a great defense. You don't need to throw picks. You don't need to take risk. So,
but the thing is, like, turnovers, like, Green Bay game was a 6-point game in the fourth quarter, despite Packers playing terrible. If you let the Commanders hang around, I can care if Eagles play like they have the last 2 weeks and don't turn over the ball.
Yeah, but the Washington defensive talent is much below the Packers and the Rams.
No, that's absolutely fair. I also think Commanders have also been playing pretty well defensively, though. Like, you thought their defensive line against the Lions create a good amount of pressure.
They knew they were rushing the pass like every play.
I think Jalen Hurts' injury, I don't think he's 100%. I don't know how well he's going to be able to move. And the Commanders, Jane Daniels is playing way too well right now. I'm going to make my pick right now. I'm going to say Commanders win this game. I'm going to bet them. I'm going to take the value on them. I really like what I'm seeing from Jane Daniels. Quarterback play is the main factor in most of these outcomes. If your quarterback plays well, you can win the game just based on that. And I'm going to trust Jane Daniels in a spot more than Jalen Hurts. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to run like he's been running. If you take the running component away from Hurts, he's really a pedestrian quarterback, in my opinion, if you take the running away. So from a passing standpoint, I'm going to trust Jane Daniels, and this offense is playing way too well. So I'm going to take Commanders here in an upset over the Eagles. But I agree with everything you're saying with the Eagles having more talent and having the edge on every position, most positions. But Jalen Hurts, this team is winning they won by 6 points against the Rams, and they won by double digits against the Packers. But both those games, they look terrible offensively.
I mean, yeah, but I think Hurts will play better because he's not going to have as many issues to worry about. Saquon's going to run. And as much as I love Jalen Daniels, and I think he's the best rookie quarterback ever, he's still a rookie quarterback with a not great defense. And he just lost one of his best linemen, and he has one good weapon. So I can't take Washington. How much I love Jalen Daniels, it's just logically, Eagles have to fall apart. And I've been kind of thinking they were going to fall apart. I picked them to lose both their playoff games, but they haven't fallen apart. And that's the only way they lose, in my opinion, is if they fall apart. And I don't see it happening with how they played.
I also think it's very interesting because this is a divisional matchup in this spot. So both teams know each other pretty well. Yeah, I think right now I can't really trust this offense for the Eagles. And that's crazy to say with all the talent that they have. But I think it comes down to quarterback play. And Hurts, I don't think is playing that well at all. And that's somewhere where we kind of completely disagree. We're on opposite spectrums of that conversation. But I'm
not opposite spectrum because I'm not saying he's playing insane. I think he's played solid. And right now, to get to the Super Bowl, all he has to do is play solid. To win the Super Bowl, that's different. But to get there, he has to play solid.
Yep.
And I think he will.
Anything else before we close out today's episode before this NFL title weekend?
I don't think so. It's I think this has been a good season. I'm kind of just ready for the Super Bowl and stuff. Little break from sports. Well, not break from sports, but I feel like the football season's been a lot. But it'll be nice to. I think we're getting a good conclusion. If only I wish the NFC was a little more exciting.
Yeah, NFC because I think the AFC title game is basically a Super Bowl. I think whoever wins that.
Chiefs Bills. It's just like I'm so happy getting to go see that. Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's like seeing Brady Manning.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that will do it for our episode this week. We'll be back next week with, of course, the recap from these title games. Hopefully, the Chiefs get a win, and we'll preview the Super Bowl as well next week. We may do maybe a mock draft here in a few weeks or so. I know last year we did one where we did the first 18 picks after the conclusion of the regular season, and we didn't get to do that this season, but we may do a mock draft here the next couple weeks. Just kind of talk about draft. I know draft's months away, but
it's a very weird draft too.
Yeah, and once the season ends, it's kind of draft talk pivots pretty quickly to that point. So we'll do a mock draft here maybe in a few weeks. But until then, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comments of suggestions that you want us to talk about.
Peace.